Okay, so Baruch Hashem, very exciting. We're going to be moving on to the second Sichot of Sichot HaRan. This is one of my favorite Sichos, and I think that this is one of the fundamental points of being a student of Rabbi Nachman, of living a life as a genuine, authentic Breslauer Chassid. Many people ask me, why I wear this type of hat and this type of clothes, and it's not like the garments of a chassid. So I told him that there is no garments of a Breslauer chassid, because the entire journey and the entire experience is one of inside. It's an internal journey. It's one where you live with HaShem. It's one where you, like we're going to learn today, throw yourself on Him completely. So I'm going to tell you what Rabbi Nachman says to do. And this is something that you should pray on every day, to be able to live like this. Because this is going to be a good life for you. This is what's made my life a good life. So Rabbi Nachman says like this: it's tov me'od. It's very good to rely on Hashem completely. Many people ask me, according to Rabbi Nachman, where is the line between hishtadlut in the physical world and tefillah? So by Rabbi Nachman, the hishtadlut isn't tefillah. They're not two separate entities. But a person's effort in their life, their ability to achieve what they need to achieve, both physically and spiritually, it all is to be obtained by Hashem. And therefore, the way that you do it is by asking Him for it. So by Rabbi Nachman, the ultimate life is a life in which you live with Hashem alone. Rabbi Nachman says in the introduction to Tinyana that every Jew needs to be like Avraham Avinu, like we're learning about now in the Parsha. Because by Avraham, the Chiddush was not just that there was only one God, but that Avraham was one with Him. He was always doing Hibodedut. He was always boded. He was always secluded with Hashem. That even when he was with his wife, he only saw his wife as an expression of whatever Hashem was trying to show him at that moment. Or when he was with his children, he saw that as a revelation of godliness. When he was with his students, when he was with his comrades, and whatever he was doing at any point, it was really only just him and Hashem. And all of that was just projections, a projection of that reality of that one life with God. So Rabbi Nachman says, it's very good to throw yourself on Hashem completely. So let's say, for instance, you have an issue at work. Your boss is giving you a hard time. And even though you know he's not the most kosher individual and he's done some pretty shady stuff, you feel like you depend on him for your livelihood. So a lot of people, they'll go home and they'll ruminate about what they would do to this person. Maybe I'll put out this rumor about him. Maybe I'll, show him who's boss. I'll do something for him. Or I'll try to subterfuge him and get somebody else to get hired instead of him. I'll get close to his boss, whatever. So all of these are called fantasies of the heart. Because the real truth is, he only has one boss, and that boss is Hashem. So if he has an issue with his boss, he really has an issue with Hashem. So what should he do when he has that difficulty, that challenge? He should go ask Hashem for help. Ask Hashem to have a different boss. Ask Hashem that his boss should be kind to him, that his boss should be fair with him, that he shouldn't treat him differently than any of the other employees. All of the things that are happening in our life, Rabbi Nachman says, it's very easy to be confused and to look at them as existing on their own. That's called exile. That's called galut. That's called living in the world of separation. That when you see the events in your life, people, places, and things as entities that exist in and of themselves, Rabbi Nachman says you're sleeping. They asked Rabbi Nachman constantly where he was going. And whenever Rabbi Nachman responded, he responded the same way. Wherever I'm going to Yerushalayim. So the obvious question is, but he wasn't, except for one time, he did go. But the rest of his life, whenever they said, where are you going? He lived in Ukraine. He lived in Breslov. He lived in Uman. He was in Medvedevka, Slaplia. Mezhibush. Where are you going, Rabbi Nachman? Where are you going, Nachman? I'm going to Yerushalayim. So how is he going to Yerushalayim? So the answer is that Yerushalayim is the place where the reality of Hashem is all that exists. Just like the ray of a sun, if you take the ray out far enough, the ray looks like it exists in and of itself. But the person who's wise understands that that ray goes back up to a source. That's the sun. And when you get to the source itself, the ray is mevatel. It's nullified. It becomes one with the source itself. So a person can live at the level of the ray, but that level is lonely. And that level is exile. But if a person learns the teachings of the tzaddik, he learns the teachings of Chassidus, he's going to know, he's going to understand that that ray ultimately has to go back up to the sun, because the ray doesn't exist on its own. It's really actually a revelation of the light of the sun, only in a level that you can handle, that you can experience. So it's our job to throw ourselves on Hashem completely and to understand that he's the source of that ray. And therefore we need to go to him for everything. So when a person understands that really it's all Hashem, his money that he makes or doesn't make, the wife that he wants to have or doesn't have, the kids that he wants to have or doesn't have, the health that he wants to have or doesn't have. So all of these things could look like they exist in and of themselves. The fact that his children don't listen to him, he can't get them into the school that he hopes to. He's struggling to be able to make his way in occupation or financially or spiritually or physically, whatever it is that a person's looking to do in their life on a daily basis. So when a person really internalizes that his hatzlacha is going to come from Hashem, because Hashem is creating these realities for him in all arenas of his life, so then he's going to be talking to Hashem all the time. He's going to be relying on him completely, to the exclusion of people, places, and things. He will no longer be putting his trust in the intermediary, which is called avodah zarah, but instead he's going to be putting his trust in the one who creates reality. So Rabbi Nachman says it's tov me'od, it's really good for you to rely on Hashem completely. Every day, he says, as each day begins, Rabbi Nachman said, I place my every movement, that of my children, those people who depend on me, in Hashem's hands, asking that everything goes as Hashem wants it to. He says, this is tov me'od, this is very good to do. When you get up in the morning, say, Hashem, this world is yours, my day is yours, my body is yours, my soul is yours, the events I'm going to have today, they're yours, the money I'm going to make today, B'ezrat Hashem, it's yours, everything that's going to happen today is yours. He says, I want it to go like you want it to go. Since everything is really yours, so what would be best case scenario? It goes the way you want it to. He says, this is tov me'od, and then I have no worries. If you meet breast lovers in Uman, if you meet real breast lovers, you're going to see they have very low levels of anxiety. They have big smiles on their faces all the time. How can that be? Are they delusional? Are they psychotic? Are they ignorant? Are they not connected to reality? What's going on that in a world that everybody's so troubled and worried constantly and feels that they have the right to do so, these people are, so to speak, living in a reality that's not in this world while they're here? And the answer is that when they get up in the morning, they give their life over to Hashem completely. Not in Mesirat Nefesh, just saying, this is yours. This is yours. How am I going to get worried about something that's not mine? You know, when a person is kids, chas v'shalom, they're struggling with something. You can't get them into the school that you want them to. For instance, like when I got to Israel, I had trouble getting my kids into certain schools. Those were schools I was hoping to get them into because I thought it would be good for them. So before Rabbi Nachman, what would I do? I would pull every ploy in the book to be able to get my kids in. I would pretend maybe I'm something like I'm not. I would go through all types of machinations in order to be able to get my kids into this school that I think is the best for them. But I didn't do that. I'm in Hibodedut. I'm talking to Hashem. I'm saying to Hashem, I've been praying for years, even before I had kids, to be able to give my kids everything, to be able to bring them as close to you as possible. And obviously, once they're born, every single day, a day doesn't go by that I don't ask Hashem, please give them the best education possible for you. They should love you. They should love Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people. They should love the land of Israel. They should be kind to people. They should have Yirat Shamayim. All of these things. So I said to Hashem, look, they're your kids. They're not my kids. You gave them to me. They're in my holding. I'm responsible for them, but they're not my kids. Essentially, they're your children. Like it said that the Jewish people are the children of Hashem. So really, whose responsibility is it that my son or my daughters get the best education possible? It's Hashem's responsibility. It's not mine. There's a person that I know. He's a big Talmid Chacham. He learns Yom V'Layla. He learns every single day. He doesn't make so much money. When Shabbat comes, right before Shabbat, he goes to the grocery store. He doesn't look at how much money he has. He doesn't look at his credit card. He doesn't look at prices. He gets everything that looks good for him, every wine, every liquor, every meat, every chicken, everything. He brings it all to the supermarket. He pays for it with his credit card. He doesn't look at it at all. But it's not responsible. How do you do that? They asked him, how are you doing things like that? He said, it's not my responsibility. Hashem says, if you do what I want, I do what you want. So I do what he wants. Every day I learn his Torah. I help people. I do the best that I can to be a good person. By the time Shabbat comes, Hashem says, I want you to enjoy Shabbat to the highest degree possible. I want you to buy special things for Shabbat, special clothes, special food. He told me to do this. So it's not my responsibility to pay for this. It's his responsibility. So I'm throwing it on him. So this is a life of living with Hashem. This is what it's called living in Yerushalayim. This is where Rabbi Nachman wants us to get to be able to live with Hashem and to understand that he's responsible for the different things in our life, not us. Whether or not things go well, Rabbi Nachman says, I'm completely reliant on Hashem. Whatever he wants, whatever he desires, I've already asked him that he should do his ratzon. So whenever it actually takes place, I don't get all verklempt, right? If I say, Hashem, please help today to go exactly like you want it to go. And then all of a sudden I get up and I trip. I fall. So I could spend an hour thinking about how my wife, she left the things out on the floor. My kids didn't pick them up, right? And I lose that whole hour of my day. And I get angry and sad and frustrated and go into all these negative emotions. And my whole day is thrown off, all because I tripped over this thing because I think it's everybody else's fault. Or I think it's my fault and I blame myself. Or I just said to Hashem 5 seconds ago, Hashem, please help that everything today goes according to your ratzon, what you want from me. And then all of a sudden you trip. Okay, so that's what Hashem wanted. And we know that everything that Hashem does is for your good. Everything Hashem does is to bring you closer to him. Everything that Hashem is doing is coming from his love for you, his infinite love for you. Okay, so I don't have to spend another second thinking about it. Somehow this was good for me. I don't know how. And now I'm going to go on with the rest of my day. I don't lose that hour. I don't lose my emotional stability. I don't lose my simcha. I don't lose my joy. And I move on with my life. This is a good life. Because really, it's not the events in our life that are making us sad. It's the fact that we don't think that they're good. It's the fact that we don't think that they're from Hashem. That's what causes us trouble. You know, a person, let's say he can't get married. The Torah says to get married. It's a mitzvah to get married. And I'm trying to. I'm praying for it. I'm going on dates. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. So he can get completely overwhelmed and think to himself, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? What do I have to do? Why isn't Hashem helping me? But you should feel stress-free. Why? Because Hashem told you to do this. So you're doing your part to try to get married. So whose responsibility is you to get married? It's Hashem's responsibility. So throw it on Hashem. Say, Hashem, I'm doing what I can do. So now you need to get me married because you want me to be. That's what you told me to do. I'm trying to do that. I don't run the world. You do. You're in charge of my zivug. You're the shadchan of the world. So I need you to make my match. That's your responsibility. And if at the end of the day I didn't find my partner, that's on you. That's not on me. Rabbi Nachman used to speak to Hashem like this. Before each Shabbat or festival, every Chag, Rabbi Nachman said, I also placed my observance of the mitzvot in Hashem's hands, asking that it's all going to be like he wishes. For instance, Pesach comes up. We know how big of a chumrah, how serious it is not to have chametz, not to have leavened bread in your house on Pesach. It's a big deal. But a person can't know for sure that it's not there. So what can happen is a person can look for chametz everywhere, but then realize, right before Pesach starts, oh, I didn't check here. Why didn't I really check here? Maybe the sale wasn't official, that I tried to sell it to whoever. And then all of a sudden, your whole Pesach's ruined because you're nervous about chametz in your house. So what would Rabbi Nachman do? he would do the best that he can to prepare for Pesach. And then when Pesach came in, he would say, Hashem, I did what I could for Pesach. Now you do what you need to do. You take care of me and make sure that I do Pesach the way you want me to. And I'm going to go be happy. I'm going to go be joyful because I did my hishtadlut. Now I need you, Hashem, to do yours. He said I could celebrate now and I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to worry perhaps I'm not doing something right. I don't have to worry that I'm self-conscious about something. I don't have to worry about, did I prepare the right way? Did I do this the right way? Am I in the right place? No, I did what I can do. And now Hashem needs to do what he wants to do. He says, I'm completely reliant on Hashem and everything's in his hands. And this is a good life, Rabbi Nachman says. The writer of this book who wrote the Perush, Rav Tzvi Aryeh Rosenfeld, he says that if you notice, there are certain people that they get anxious and worried all the time. Lamaisa, at the end of the day, usually things work out okay. Not every day, sometimes things don't, but in general, things work out okay. So if they work out the majority of times okay, and even those times that they don't, they really are, we just don't know how yet. So what's a better life? You're thinking and worrying about it all the time, or you don't because you realize it's not in your hands. And in the end, usually most of the time it works out anyway. When I used to do CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, so one of the things that we focus on is accurate thinking, more accurate thinking. Because CBT's big chiddush, big novelty, is that one of the reasons why a person is sad and anxious is because their thinking is flawed. They ruminate about things because they imagine the worst possible situation. But if you ask that person how often has the worst possible situation took place, they would tell you never. So then why are you so worried about it? Because it might happen. Yeah, but according to statistics, it's so unlikely. So why wouldn't you want to live with those statistics? That makes more sense. But whose chiddush was this really? It was Rabbi Nachman 200 years ago. He says very, very clearly that the truth makes a person happy, accuracy makes a person happy, and lies make a person sad. Lies make a person nervous. Lies make a person worried. Because faulty or falseness, that whole essence of that is to drive you from Hashem, it's to drive you from good. And that makes a person unhappy. And he thinks that he runs his life instead. But the pressure is not on us. The pressure's on Hashem, and it's no pressure at all. And this is a good life. I've told you guys this many times before, but when I was in the psych ward, the one thing I noticed about everybody there was the degree to which they thought that they ran their own lives was like through the roof. It's like even beyond what's normal. And therefore, what ends up happening to a person like that, he's inundated with feelings of guilt and responsibility for the events that take place in his life because he's convinced that they're all the result of whatever he has done or not done. And that's a tremendous weight to carry all the time. Now, if it was true, so then it's one thing. But according to the Torah, it's completely false. That person is not the cause of what happened in their life. Hashem is the cause of what happened in their life. They are participants. They get to experience it. They get to feel either that it's from Hashem or not from Hashem. They get to have faith or not have faith. But that's the end of their responsibility. They do not cause the things that take place in their life. And therefore, there's no guilt. There's no need to feel bad about whatever took place already. The things that have fallen apart, the things that haven't worked the way that you wanted to. You did the best you could, and this is how it ended up. That's how Hashem wanted it to. And we see that in our generation, where people are more anxious and sad than ever, where psychiatric medication is through the roof, why can't we deal with day-to-day life? Because atheism has swept over the world. Because a person doesn't believe in God, so automatically he thinks that he is. So if I am, so I have to make sure everything's going well the way I want it to. And if it's not, it's my fault or it's somebody else's fault. And I have a lot to be worried and sad about. But if you take a step back and you realize you don't run the world, and it's great, it's amazing. Thank God I'm not the one in charge, and I can just enjoy and experience it. I mean, obviously I have to do the best that I can. And that's what allows me to feel that peace by the time I go ask Hashem to help me to do what he wants and to help me to do, to have a good day according to what he wants. But ultimately at the end of the day, it's not our chiyuv, it's not our responsibility. Rabbi Nachman teaches in Likutei Moharan that all sadness comes from excess. motarot. So how does sadness or depression come from excess? It doesn't seem like there's any connection between excess in the physical world and sadness. And the answer is that when I think that I have responsibility for things that I don't, that's what makes me sad. When a person thinks that they're the cause of their own demise, that's where sadness comes from. Things don't work out a certain way. That's not the cause of the sadness. Thinking that I'm the cause of that, that's the sadness. Or thinking that society is the cause of that, or thinking that family is the cause of that, parents or friends or spouses, whatever. So all of that is causing sadness. It's not the events themselves, it's excess. Don't take that responsibility and put it on yourself. Throw it on HaShem completely. This is what I do in my Hibodedut every single day. People ask, how do you have an hour to talk to HaShem? If you realize HaShem runs the world, so you have more than an hour to talk to HaShem. One, because he can make more time for you, and then he could change the events in your day so you have the time to do what you need to do. And that's why people who do that hour of Hibodedut, they're more productive. They're not less productive. But even beyond that, when you are in your Hibodedut, you have so much to throw on him. Your wife, your kids, your job, your spiritual life, your physical life, your parents, your brother, your sister, your kids, your cousins. You're praying for everybody under the sun. If everything's under Hashem's hand, so I have a lot to throw on him. But then after that hour is over, you feel such relief. You feel such peace because you have attuned yourself to reality. Because Hashem runs my life and I'm living like that, by throwing myself on him completely, now I'm in the city of Yerushalayim. Now I'm in the place of peace. Now I'm in the place of life force and joy and excitement because I have connected myself to reality. And that's a person who's happy. And this is what Rabbi Nachman's trying to get us to live like a child with their father who happens to love them more than anything in the world, who happens to constantly think about you and think about different ways to connect to you constantly. So that's the one who happens to run the whole world. So give yourself over to him. Try it, Maybe try 1 week if you never did it before and it's nerve-wracking for you. So be like, okay, so this week, I'm going to give my week over to you. I'm not going to worry about what happens at work. I'm not going to worry about what happens to my dates or with my spouse or with my health. 1 week, Hashem, this week is yours. And I'm just going to go be happy. See how you feel. See what happens. You'll be surprised to see that not only you're going to be happier, but events will work out in a good way, in a way you couldn't have imagined. Why? Because when Hashem sees that you have thrown yourself on him completely, he is so happy to correspond. He's so happy to give back to you what you've given to him. That's his dream, to give you everything. But if a person doesn't understand he's getting it from Hashem, so getting everything is not a blessing, then that person doesn't appreciate anything he's gotten because he doesn't think it comes from the source. He thinks it's rays of a sun. But if a person really understands all of the sunlight is coming from the sun, then he has a tremendous appreciation for the sun. So Bezrat Hashem, we should have the blessing to internalize the Sichot of Rabbi Nachman, to throw ourselves on Hashem completely. When he says completely, he's not exaggerating. He means literally, completely. I told you that story that came to Rabbi Nachman of Natan, and he realized he was missing a button. So I said, oh my gosh, I have to go to the store. And he goes, why do you have to go to the store? He goes, because I'm missing my button. He said, did you ask Hashem for it? He goes, why would I ask Hashem for it? I just have to go to the store and get the button. He goes, and who says the store is going to be open? And who says they're going to have the button you need? And the list goes on and on. He goes, I don't know. I never really thought about it. Everything is in Hashem's hands, even the button. I see there's a couple comments on the bottom here. Isn't everything already going to be how Hashem wants? Why do we daven for that if that's already reality? The Gemara says that the only free will, bechira, that a person has is whether he believes things come from Hashem or not. So part of the reason that you're speaking to him that way is because speech is what reveals your mindset. It's what reveals your consciousness. And ultimately, you want to live with God consciousness because that's the truth. So when you say, Hashem, please, I want things to go today according to how you want them to go. So by doing that on a very simple psychological level, you're aligning yourself with reality. Whereas before you said it, you might have thought it, but there's a very deep spiritual mechanism that takes place that when you speak out something that you believe to be true, it creates that reality for yourself. That is on top of the fact that when you speak to Hashem in that way, then he knows you're mavatal to him. You have nullified your ego. And once you've nullified your ego, you become a complete vessel for blessing. There's another comment on the bottom here. Why do some rabbis say that when things happen in your life, you have to look at what you're doing and it's about something you have done? Everything is a lesson. So our downfall is because we have done something or not. Okay, so this is slightly paradoxical. It's not really, but it seems like it. On the one hand, we're saying really everything comes from Hashem. And on the other hand, the sages are teaching that when something happens to you, you should also do some introspection because there's something that you need to work on or to fix. So the answer is both are true. But ultimately, the lesson that we're getting out from that is that we don't need to move into anxiety or sadness because of it. We don't need to move into despair because of it, right? Because if Hashem runs the world, and maybe I'm not living my life according to my best, I'm not doing all that I can do according to what I know that I can do. So if that's the case, for sure, Hashem does certain things to elicit a response from you, that you should look inside, that you should look deeper. Because usually it's only when things are not working that a person is forced to reorient themselves and look at themselves and examine and introspect about what they need to do better. So it's true that you need to do that, but at the same time, you don't need to bear the guilt of sadness and anxiety. You don't need to bear these things because they're not yours to bear. It's Hashem's. So I hope that clarified it. You know, like for instance, if let's say you're always getting into situations where people are insulting you. So a person might say, you know, well, Hashem's trying to teach you something. For sure, you know, humility is going to be the result of that. Yeah. So, but at the same time, that's Hashem's lesson for you. You didn't do anything to do that. You want to be close to Hashem. You're asking Hashem, I want to be close to you. And you need to be humble in order to be close to Hashem, because the more that there's you, the less that there's him. Just like in any relationship, the more that it's all about you, the less it's about your spouse. So same thing here. But at the same time, Lamaisa, at the end of the day, it's Hashem's responsibility what happens, the events that take place in this world, the events that take place in your life. And this is the main your modus operandi. This is the main way that you're supposed to be orienting throughout your days, to live like this, to live like a child with his father, to live like innocent, tamimus, and to rely on Hashem for everything, to throw yourself on Hashem for everything. And then obviously part of that though is you're doing the best that you can. Because if you're not doing the best that you can, you're not going to feel confident to say it to Hashem, Hashem, now it's on you, you know? I say to Hashem, now it's on you. I say, you need to get my kids into school. Why? Because I know that I did the best that I could. I did. So because of that, I feel confident. But if, for instance, I'm completely lax in my child's education, I'm not trying to help them at all, I've never cared about it one bit, and they don't get into the school, I'm not going to have the chutzpah to come to Hashem and say, you know, it's your job to do this. But if you do the best that you can, so Rabbi Nachman says it's good. Hashem loves hearing it like that. So what Sichot is this? This is the second Sichot in Sichot HaRan. Number 2, bet. When you tell Hashem you are giving over everything to him, when do you ask for the button? You ask for the button from Hashem. You ask for the button from Hashem. And then when you go to the store, you understand that if the store is open, it's because Hashem wanted it to be. If the button's there, it's because Hashem wants it. And if it's not open or they don't have the button, it's because Hashem believes it's better for you not to have that button that day. And that's even better than having the button. Because why do you want anything? Because whatever you think you're going to have is good. But what Hashem wants is good. Any other questions? I hear some fuddling in the background. Any questions?
Hi, I have a question.
Sure.
So I'm the one who asked about the what the rabbis say.
Right.
It's a little confusing, but so I totally 100% believe everything is from Hashem. But I end up in these ironic situations where things that like it sounds like contradictory, but like I applied for jobs, let's say, like I didn't take a job, so I don't work on Shabbat. I turned down 3 jobs, and then I go and I look for a job with synagogues, and then they just ignore me. So my question is, so I'm not aligning with my purpose, or Hashem doesn't want me to have those jobs because I got just turned down. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's hard to understand.
There's another option though. There's another option. If Rabbi Nachman says that Hashem doesn't give a person something until he wants it as great as the thing is. So that means, for instance, we know Sarah Imenu, right? The first Jewish mother. She didn't have a child for 90 years. The whole purpose of coming into the world was that she should have children to build the Jewish people. And yet it was the only thing she struggled with her whole life. She was beautiful. She had an amazing husband and she had money. She had everything. She couldn't have kids though, her whole life. So why would Hashem, the one thing that they came here for is the one thing they don't have? So the answer is because she didn't realize that she was going to have Yitzchak Avinu. She was going to give birth to Yitzchak, who would give birth to the Jewish people, who would be one of the greatest people to ever live. That when the Jewish people are suffering, or let's say that we're in exile and we're struggling and people are not living with Hashem, they're not living with the Torah, they're not living with the mitzvot. So the Gemara says that Hashem thinks about Yitzchak and how much he engaged in self-sacrifice his whole life. And he actually ultimately came to the Akedah like last week. And he forgives us for everything. He just thinks about Yitzchak and he forgives us constantly. That's the type of child that Sarah was going to have. How bad does Sarah need to want to have a child like that, to have a child like that? 90 years of wanting. Rabbi Nachman says that as soon as you want the thing, as great as the thing is, Hashem gives it to you immediately. So you might ask, well, how do I express my want? How do I know if I want it enough? So if you haven't gotten it yet, so then you need to want it more. And how do you express your want more? By praying on it more. So let's say, for instance, I really wanted something. Like let's say you really want this job that you don't have to work on Shabbat. So instead of, let's say, praying in my Hibodedut for like one sentence, I say, please Hashem, help me that I should get a job that I don't have to work on Shabbat, and feeling like I'm yotze the mitzvah. Maybe you have to spend 20 minutes asking for it every day. It depends how bad you want it. And the degree to which you want it is expressed through your tefillah. It's expressed through your actions. So this is like another very important pillar of Rabbi Nachman's teachings. That when a person wants something that's good for him and he's not getting it, it's not because Hashem doesn't want him to have it or her to have it. He does want you to have it. So why isn't he giving it to you? Because he needs that your ratzon, your will for the thing should be as great as the thing is, so that when you finally get it, you really appreciate it. This job at Aish that I have, I'm teaching tonight, Bezrat Hashem. This was like the hardest job for me to get. I was unemployed here for months, and I thought on paper I have like all these different things that would make it the perfect fit, and I couldn't get the job, and it was like a back and forth, and they said they weren't interested, and ultimately like they told me to look elsewhere, and then like months later, I'm praying every day, and throwing it on Hashem, and ultimately like they emailed me, and now, if in those months I said to myself, Hashem doesn't want me to have that job, so I would have just dismissed it completely. Or when I got the email from them, I would have just discarded it. Why? Because they said no to me before, so why should I work for them? But it's not about them and it's not about me, it's about Hashem. And now that I'm helping these kids and I'm speaking to them and I'm teaching them, I realized the reason why it was so hard to get this job is because the job is so important. And therefore my will for the job had to be as great as the job is, not in terms of pay, but in terms of impact. And that's what I'm always praying for, to be able to impact people in the most positive way possible. So for that, I needed a lot of will. I needed a lot of ratzon and a lot of tefillah.
Wow, that was very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome,
Sounds
Dina.
similar. Thank you so much.
Sure. Any other questions, guys? No? Okay. Everybody have a great night. Bezrat Hashem, our next class will be Likut Moran. We're going to continue. Hope everybody has an amazing day, an amazing night. Don't forget, throw yourself on Hashem completely. Hashem wants to hold it. If you look in Tehillim, I believe it's 54, 56, 55, in that area, the Pasuk literally says, King David says, the Mashiach says, throw yourself on Hashem and he will sustain you. So Rabbi Nachman, it's not his chiddush. He's just adding to it completely. How much should you throw yourself on him? Completely. And then whatever happens, it's not your responsibility. It's Hashem's. And this is a key to a joyful, happy life. That's what Hashem, we should all have one. Be Meravi Amenu. Have an amazing day.